good to see you. You're looking
Good to see you.
lovely.
Good morning. You're
Nice
looking
red.
lovely. I love the car. I love the yellow.
Please note my hangout copy so you can tell for
Yes,
sure. But she
and
didn't
I
respond when I
have
put.
mine on. So yes, they're good.
In fact, we have. Please wait. Put that up again. Please, can you put your thing up again? Rosie, take a picture, please. Okay, fantastic. Rosie, I hope you got it. After all that pausing, we'll find out that Rosie didn't even pay attention. Never mind. Okay, fantastic. Lovely to have you with us.
Thank you.
Now, obviously, we know, guys, can we have a bit more love? I see a little bit of love, but I'm not feeling enough love for our guest. Can I have a bit more love? Hey, Bookie Smile, Book Smile.
Hello.
Oluwaseun, welcome.
Good morning.
Okay, so this is your first time on Hangout Cafe, and I really feel like, hey, now I'm seeing the love. I was going to say, I don't feel like they're greeting you appropriately. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I understand that you're an avid watcher, so you're not a stranger to this. Okay, fantastic. Look, our very own Oga.
I see.
Okay, all right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly read through your bio. You know, I read your bio and I was like, I'm just going to read the whole thing because I don't know what to pick out, what not to pick out. Because initially I was like, it's too long. Then I was like, well, it's all relevant. Then I was like, so I will run through it just to give the viewers an idea of who you are and what, and then we'll go straight into it.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So our guest, people, is I was going to say Miss, but no, I'm not even going to say that, or Mrs. It's Phinnah Chichi. That's how she's known as Phinnah Chichi. She's passionate about parenting teams. She's a consultant, a coach, and a life coach with a focus on social emotional learning, which I thought when I read that, I was like, you see, there are already so many questions in your bio. I haven't even started. But anyway, social emotional learning and personal development for teens and young adults. She's worked with parents and teens for over 10 years, helping parents with how to understand, communicate, connect, and raise responsible leaders of tomorrow. Yes. Her organization, Parenting Teen Solutions Limited, is dedicated to educating, empowering, encouraging, and equipping parents with the right tools to help themselves and their teens as they navigate through the changes and challenges of the adolescent journey. It is her mission to help support, nurture the evolving parent-child relationship, disrupt wrong parenting habits and norms, and transform the lives of families. Amen. She accomplishes her mission by helping parents do the inner work. Look, I'm always talking about inner work, and people don't like to do inner work. Anyway, we'll come back to that. She accomplishes her mission by helping parents do the inner work that disconnects them from their teens and young adults and parent from a place of peace and respect. Amen. In fact, she is the host of the Parenting Teen Solution podcast, which was recently listed the 9th place on the top 60 world podcast list for parenting teens by blog.feedspot.com. Come on now. Come on. She is an Amazon best-selling author, an international speaker, and a mother of 3 young adults and 1 teenager. Whoa! Okay. Well, there you have it. That is our guest. So I think you can see that she is the right person to talk to us about parenting and especially about parenting teens. So I'm going to start. Phinnah, you said you have 3 young adults and 1 teenager. So you have 4 kids. What are their ages?
Oh gosh, let me put that now. So 28, 23, 20, and 16.
28.
Yes.
How old are you? Okay,
my bonus son.
Did you have that child when you were 10 years old?
The 28-year-old is my bonus son. And then
okay, bonus son. It doesn't matter if your child, whichever way. Okay, fantastic. So, 4 children. Okay, actually, before we go into this, can you tell us anything about yourself that is not, because that was a very official bio. Yes. Can I have a non-official bio, please?
Yes. So I think something about myself is I'm very much into my health.
Okay.
I love to walk. I love to do exercises. I'm very mindful. I'm a very conscious person. What I'd love to say. This calm demeanor comes from somewhere. But yeah, and I'm very I'm someone that's very loyal. What else? You know, I'm calm.
What's your apart from exercise? What's your favorite thing to do?
Oh, listen to music.
What sort of music?
Gospel music. I'm a big fan of gospel music. Any kind of music that has inspiration behind it. I love my oldies. I love the 80s and the 90s. So bring me some, Whitney Houston, Madonna. Bring me some of those oldies. You will see a different version of Phinnah actually.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Okay, parenting.
Yes.
That's what we're here to talk about, and parenting in particular. Now, I know before, I don't know if you saw before you came on, I was saying that we kind of think of, well, I don't know, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but you kind of think of parenting as ending before, like you don't think of how it's a lifetime thing.
Yes.
So you don't necessarily expect, you get all the parenting skills for the younger, like from when they're 2 to when they're, I don't know, 10 or something. But beyond that,
yes.
Sometimes we struggle, and that's when in my experience, that's probably when we need it the most, because that's when they start to speak back and when they have attitude and all that sort of stuff. So I have 4 kids as well, but mine are not. My eldest is 21 and my youngest is 11. Okay. So you're down. Yeah, I'm following behind you very closely, so I want to hear everything you have to say. Can you tell us first of all why you went into this? Was this something you were always interested in, or did you just fall into it because you're a parent?
No, actually, I'll tell you. It started. I'm a chartered accountant. That was my first.
Oh, wow.
My thing that I went into career-wise. Worked in corporate, did all that. But I had a moment where I lost my mom's my mom's only 2 sisters died in the same year. That was 2010, and I just had this moment where, my God, what's life all about? What is this life all about? What am I supposed to be doing in this world? I know accounting, yes, I'm doing it, but I wasn't enjoying it. Yes, what is my passion? Because I just felt that I was always trying to prove that I knew what I was doing in accounting. But I knew that there was something about me that would go, God has given me something to do that will flow with who I am and, what my passion is about. So I started asking God, I'm like, hey, what am I supposed to do here? And that was the journey that took me to parenting. But I'm going to tell you, I started with coaching teenagers first because I have a big love for teenagers. You can say, anybody can say anything about teenagers. They're talking to the wrong person. If anyone tells me anything negative about teenagers, they've spoken to the wrong person, because I would break it down before the conversation is over. Their minds will switch about teenagers. And then I get on very well with teenagers. I used to, all my young cousins, my young adult cousins, my friends' kids, I get on very well with them. So I know that's a cohort that I'm actually called to bless. And I'm also in church as well. I'm a youth leader as well. But one of the things is, when I started with the teenagers, I started hearing everything my parent, my mom did, my mom, my dad, my mom, my dad. So I thought, okay, the more I'm helping the young people, yes, they're getting what I'm sharing with them, but then they go home and it backfires. Yeah. So I said, for me to be able to do what I need to do for the young people, I have to speak to the parents as well. Because through speaking to the parents, then the message for their self-esteem, the message for everything about them can actually work. And that was how I started talking to parents. And here I am today, talking to parents, teenagers, and young adults. And I love it.
You can see, you don't even have to say it. I always feel like when someone is passionate about something, they don't have to tell you. You can see it in the way they talk about it, the way they behave. Yes, so. Okay, fantastic. So I guess the question I'm going to ask now is, why is it important? Because I think, why is it important for us to even pay attention to our teens? We've already raised them. I'm playing a bit of a devil's advocate, by the way. Not that I believe this, but we've already raised them to, we've put it, because they say that the formative years, if you get them between 0 and 7, I think it is, then, so why are we bothering after 7 now, please?
The main reason we're bothering after 7 is that their brain development hasn't finished yet. So if we only stop at age 7 or age 10, we've not done enough yet. The up to age 7 and 10 is the foundation that's needed. But there comes then the teenage years. Actually, now the teenage years is even getting low, even less than 13.
Before 10,
by 10, these kids are already acting like teenagers and already getting that part of teenagers. What happens is that the brain is something is happening differently now. Teenagers are becoming they're looking for their independence. They're looking for who they are, because all the while it's been about what mom has said, it's been about what dad has said. Wear this, wear that, don't wear this, don't wear this. It's their identity has been tied to their parents, and rightly so. But as they become teenagers, something in their brain now is saying, okay, who am I? So every young person is asking themselves, who am I? So a lot of times the clashes they have with parents is because they're trying to figure out who they are. And the parents are still trying to talk to them like they were young people. So that's where the clashes begin. Teenagers need to know who they are. Where do they fit in the society? What are they going to contribute in the society? Those are the main questions for teenagers. And so when parents can then start to make the shifts, that's what actually helps teenagers to become who they are. A lot of teenagers get into the world now and they're thinking in that question of who am I not, then there's influences, isn't it? You have your peers, you have all that. And so every one of them is asking those questions. And they're trying out different things. The trainers come out, they want to try that. The shoes come out, the hairstyle comes out, they want to try that. So they're
trying to find their individuality and find out. I know there's something you put here in your bio that I absolutely love. I think I said amen after it. You said to teach adults how to raise responsible leaders of tomorrow. Now, this is something I'm always saying, because I think the mistake we make in parenting is we think we're raising children, but we're actually raising adults. Or we're raising adults that can contribute to, or we should be raising adults that can contribute to society. We're on a level.
I'm giving you a hug.
As in, so the way, if you're raising an adult, the way you do it would be different from the way you raise a child. Now, obviously, from 0 to 7 or 0 to whatever, you have to do things that everything has to be age appropriate. But if your goal is adulthood, is an adult that will contribute to society, be a useful member of society, a good husband, a nice wife, you know what I mean? If you are raising that sort of person, you're going to think differently. You're not going to, do you understand what I mean? So can you talk a bit to that? Because I think in parenting, that's one of the, certainly my experience when I'm doing my parenting stuff, is people are raising the child, you're raising an adult, so you need to look beyond now, So go on, speak a bit about that.
I have goosebumps just from you saying that, because that is the ultimate. Once we have in our minds that we are raising adults, we're raising young adults, it shifts the way we speak, because you're not going to speak to a young adult and say, go and do this, go right, you must do it. You're not going to do that. That's very disrespectful. That doesn't even make sense.
Please, can I just pause you here now before you go on and say one of my biggest icks or irks or whatever it is with this whole parenting thing is, I think that unfortunately, and maybe this is in our culture, I can only speak from this, is that we don't respect our kids. We don't look at them as human beings. We almost feel like they are our, as in, we're a child, so that thing where they say that a child is never hurt.
Exactly.
And I feel like that's part of where the problem is. Because, they have to be, sorry, go on. We respect, sorry, don't let me take over.
And you're absolutely right. It's the culture, the upbringing, how we were parented, that always comes into the way when we're supposed to be parenting our children, thinking about the young adults we're parenting. Because if we have the child in our minds, then we're not recognizing them for who they are. And that's an insult to their humanity.
High five. Because you see, God created each of them individually to be who they're going to be in the future. Not, of course, who they are today, but you know what I mean? Like, and we have to take them there. Thank you, Jerry. Please speak. I'm listening.
We have to take them there. So respect is vital. And we all grew up with respect your elders, respect your parents, and that's very right. But respect is a two-way street. Our children cannot learn respect if they don't see respect. They have to see it. Respect is not a rule. Oh, you must respect me. If you're not respecting your child, then it's unfair to think that they know what respect is all about.
Respect is earned, I think.
Earned. It's earned. And there's a shift that we need to make as parents. It's like, we need to go back. We need to go back to the drawing table and say, okay, How was I parented? And when we ask ourselves the question, how was I parented? It's not to be disloyal to our parents. It's not that we are ungrateful to our parents. That's not what it is. It's about evolving. We have to evolve. I cracked a joke one day on Facebook and I said, our forefathers are in the graves, kind of like turning around in the grave saying, can you guys evolve with the world? Can you guys evolve? Because it's like what they did was what was happening in their time. That was the
100%.
culture. That was everything. Now we're in the 21st century and we're still holding on to that.
And you know that there's that quote that Maya Angelou says, when you know better, you do better.
Thank you.
So yes, they did what they knew. Yes. We know better, we do better. We don't have to, you know, there's this thing I always tell, I'm sure I always tell this, I'm going to tell it anyway.
Yes,
there's an email, or I don't know, it was some story that I saw years and years ago. It was an email that was going around, and basically it was a young girl asking her mother. Her mom was cooking fish. Have you heard it? Yeah. And she cut off the head and she cut off the tail. Yes, so okay, she cut off the head and the tail of the fish, and she was cooking. So the daughter asked her why, and she said, that's how grandma does it, that's how we do it. So obviously, when they went to grandma's, the granddaughter asked and said, you know, why do you do it? She said, oh, that's how my mother did it. And luckily, great grandma was alive. And when they went to great grandma, she said, my pot was too small. So, you know, they're just copying. They don't know the reason. You have to know the reason why you're doing something. You cannot just literally be copying. I mean, obviously, so that's why I say when you know better, you do better. So find out why were you cutting the head and the tail off. It was a very practical reason, not anything else. That was it. You know, so I think things like that. But I just wanted, someone put something here that I want you to address. Be to them the person you want to see them become. What do you think of that?
Sorry, I didn't hear that. I said
be to them the person you want to see them become.
Exactly. And that's exactly the example. Because remember, they say that children, they don't do what we say, they do what they see. So what the comment there is about, who do you want them to be? You want them to be a resilient person or a respectful person. You have to be that resilient and respectful person. That's the way they're going to learn it. It's not about writing in a book, be resilient. No, they need to see you.
It's not about telling them. Yeah. And children, they have more, we don't give them credit for a lot of their intelligence. So, you know, I mean, I remember there was someone that was having a conversation with one of my friends about something. And I'm like, you know, and he turned around and he said, but daddy does. So I had to go and have the conversation with daddy. That daddy, please.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Because they copy, you know, how I can be shouting from here to Kingdom.com, I can be saying this is it, this is that. But as long as we're not showing the example, then, you know, they can choose which example they're going to follow. In this case, he wanted to do what dad was doing, which, you know, who am I to argue? You know what I mean? It's dad I have to address, not him.
Yes.
So yeah.
Totally. And that's really the key. And one of the things that I said I needed to mention this here is because we have to kind of look at the world that we're living in today with social media, the internet, all these things that we're seeing. Our children have more voices to contend with.
Absolutely.
They have more voices to contend with. So we can't afford to sit back and say, oh, we're doing it the way our parents did it. We can't afford that because the consequences are too massive.
It's a completely different world. You can't even start to compare, you know, as in how do you even, I mean, no grandfather, well, maybe the ones that are alive now, but, you know, knew anything about social media or the impact social media would have on our mental health, on their self-esteem, you know what I mean? So it's completely different.
It is.
Okay, so since you're taking us there, we live in a world of social media.
Yes.
And I think a lot of the cohort we're talking about are very much a social media age. I don't even know if they know life before social media.
No, they don't.
So how do we as parents now navigate that world in terms of raising them, but also giving them the freedom to be who they're supposed to be?
Okay, that's a very great question. And the thing, it starts with whose voice are we choosing to be? Are we choosing to be the yelling voice, or are we choosing to be the voice of influence? I'm very big on the voice of influence for parents because we come with a lot of experience. We come with a lot of stories. We come with a lot of values and life, real rich values to share with our teenagers. But we're losing it because we're not thinking of our voice of influence. And if you look at the world today, social media is saying something, the internet is saying something, so many people are saying something. Our children haven't got the advantage of what we had when we were growing up. I heard this, I watched this TEDx talk some years ago, and the lady said, we are immigrants into this digital world. Our children are natives. Our children were born in the digital space. So we have the advantage of hearing voices, the strong voices around us. We have the advantage of being with families, with being with our neighbors. We had that village when we were growing up. Our children are now exposed to the internet, and on the internet and social media, there's so much information. So here's the deal. If the voices out there are so loud, then what is your voice as a parent? The aim for parents should be to make your voice the voice of influence. And how do you keep your voice as the voice of influence? By not letting your voice be drained by yelling, drained by criticism, drained by comparisons. Because young people are seeing all this.
I don't know how to be healing you, so I'm just doing things.
Our young people are feeling this. When you criticize them, for them, in their minds, they've interpreted it as, you don't love me. When you yell on them, you don't love me, you don't care. When you don't listen to them, you don't care. Those are the interpretations. I talk to young people and they say, my mom doesn't love me. I'm like, oh, hold on, let's talk about this. They say, oh, my mom, she said this, she didn't listen to me. They make conclusions. And unfortunately, sometimes we're not privileged to know those conclusions.
100%. And you know what I say?
Yes.
I think parenting is nothing to do with the children. It is more about the willpower of the parents. And really, I don't think there's any such thing as a bad child, just bad parenting. I'm not even going to say bad parent, because I don't even think they're bad parents, just bad parenting. And if we have the right skills, we can do this thing. So I honestly think that what you're saying, because everything you said there is about the willpower, not to shout, not to criticize, it's all about our personal willpower. And unfortunately, so many of us are just too into ourselves to be able to do that. So the next question, my darling Phinnah, how do we do that? Because the reality is, I mean, like I said, I think it's about your willpower and your determination as a human being, as a parent, that you know what I mean. Because the way I look at it is that God has given me these children, not on my watch. And I always remind myself that He had a million, especially if I'm having a challenge with a particular child. I said, He has, of all the people in this world, He chose me to be her mother or his mother. That means I have everything that I need within me to mother this child. So I now have to reach out to God to get that. But let's even just park that. How do we just practically, on a day-to-day basis, I think the question I want to is, how do we develop that willpower if we don't have it? If we're not the person that there's some people that have a strong will and can do that, but other people that can't. And the reality, Phinnah, is that when that child is coming home at 4 a.m., you are not about to be, you don't want to not shout or something. You know what I mean? So how do we then deal with the reality or the practicality of actually putting into practice what we're saying we need to do? Small baby steps for us, please. I need it.
First of all, it's going to be, of course, I love what you said about recognizing that you are the one that was placed the responsibility to bring up these children. So you already have it in you. God has already given us the ability to parent this exact child or the children that we have. That's number one. And it takes a made-up mind. Because I'll give you an example. My son, when he was, year 6, 7, 8, I used to get reports from school nearly every day. Nearly every day, I used to get reports. And so one of the things that I told myself about him is that I said, I know this boy. The question is, what is your vision about your child? I told him, I know this guy. This guy is going to be a great leader. I already see it in him. Yes, he can be strong-willed, but that's because he's not going to take nonsense from people.
It's about holding it the right way.
Your perspective's got to change, because if your perspective doesn't change, you won't speak in the way that you need to be spoken. So I used to tell my son, I said, Kenny, if you see what I see about you, and I will be acting, making it very theoretical. If you see what I see about you, he'll be laughing. I said, you're going places, my son. So let's not allow these little things in school distract the journey. That's how I'll be talking to him. So he will come and he will give me an explanation of why he did what he did in school. And I'll say, yeah, there's probably a point. A friend spoke to him while a teacher was talking to him. He wanted to help the friend, so he responded to the friend. He got in trouble.
Yeah.
I said, what you're doing is the right thing, but you're just doing it in the wrong time. You want to help your friend, and that's a good thing, but it's just the wrong time. Tell your friend, next time, talk to me after school or during the break time. I'll sort you out. So it's our children don't know any better. We have to guide them in the way. The mistake that many parents will make then is that because we got that letter from the school, we attack the child. We start to shout. Why did you do this? Because what are we thinking of? We're thinking of our reputation.
Yes, that's they're making us look like bad parents. You see, and that's I think that is such a key thing, and that's why I always say that for me, I believe as a Christian, nothing is about me. It's really not about me. No. It's all about, you know. But I think it's quite a hard thing for people to do, to actually realize that it's not about me now. So if they think I'm a bad parent, so what? Do you know what I mean? So what? If in the end I raise a child that is, or an adult that is, you know, exactly how they're supposed to be, then if they thought I was a bad parent along the way, so be it. You know what I mean? As long as I know that I'm doing the best, because I think it is, unfortunately, again, I don't know if it's culture thing or if it's just a human thing, but unfortunately, we're always trying to protect, to make ourselves, we mustn't make ourselves look like, please look anyhow, just do the job they told you to do. You know, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And those of us that are parents know that, you know, it's not, because I always feel like we're too busy, we feel like we're being judged.
Yes.
Sometimes we're not being judged. Sometimes we are, but you know what I mean? We have to rise above that and be like, okay, so I'm being judged, but that's okay. I can still do it. And I think those are the skills that I want you to pull out on. I think because when somebody is judging you, when you are getting calls from social services because your child has been missing from school twice or whatever it is that it is, when you're being, how do you then within yourself just say, okay, fine, you have to address these things because they're legal, you know what I mean? You can't ignore them, but how do you then
yes,
I
totally understand. And the first thing I would encourage all the parents watching this and that will watch the replay is think about relationship over rules.
Like Christianity.
Yes. Thank you. Relationship over rules will guide you. Because yes, our young people, our teenagers will mess up, and that's okay. They're meant to mess up. The problem we have is that we're thinking we should raise perfect children. Our children are not going to be perfect. They're not going to be perfect. They are going to make mistakes. That is part of learning. Because if you see many of us today, many of us as adults, we're afraid to take risk because we were so afraid to make mistakes growing up. They are going to make mistakes. It's what we do about the mistakes that is key. Relationship over rules means that you will connect with your child and your teenager in a different way. And the more you connect with them in a different way, they will hear you. That's where your voice of influence will be stronger. So yes, they do something wrong. Because of your voice of influence, because of your connection with them, guess what? They hear you. Many parents say, my teenagers don't hear me. And I ask them, what do you do to connect with your teenagers? Nothing. One parent told me that the only time they really spend together is on their way to school. And I said, okay, we need to make some adjustments. Your teenager needs to feel that they matter to you. If they feel that they don't matter to you, they are just going to do things on their own. And the world is going to influence them. And you and I know the internet and all these bad influences that we see out there. Guess the language you're speaking to with our teenagers. Very friendly. Very friendly.
Yes.
Oh,
it's family. It's family. Isn't that what gangs are about?
Yes.
It's a family. So, and I always say, you know, I've done lots of courses in all this. I did one called Girls in Gangs. And I remember my husband saying to me, why are you going to that? And I said, because I have one daughter.
Yes.
I'm watching.
Yes. Totally.
And I need to know, you know what I mean? I have to know because they want to feel like they belong. That is what this whole thing is about. And if we are not giving it to them, they're going to go and find it somewhere else. It's the same thing we say about everything else. And I think it's so key because I think certainly in our community, I think we're so busy trying to look like the perfect parents, so busy trying to say our child went to this school, our child got 5 A's, our child, who cares? Who gives a toss? Let it grow. It's a kind-hearted human being. That's what you should be growing, not a child with 5 A's. If you have 5 A's and be a murderer, please, it's okay.
So true.
Keep your 5 A's.
Exactly. And that's the key because we focus so much on academics and not the character. Because we are unintentionally breaking the character. And sometimes I'm so because of the passion I have for this, sometimes I tear up when I hear some things. I tear up because our children deserve better. And as Christians as well, there's a lot of mistakes we're making in parenting. So much. That will take another topic altogether. That will take another.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. And then we do it in the name of Christianity and love, and we now use Christianity to do bad behavior. No.
Totally. And I tell you something here. Another thing I want to because I want parents to leave here with definitely, these tips that we're sharing. Relationship over rules. Also, the next one I'll talk about is control. Moving from control to collaboration.
Please, where is I need to send claps? Somebody send claps for me.
Please. Because as we both said here, that teenagers are looking for that independence. And the independence is good for them because we don't want teenagers who don't know about themselves. Then as soon as they're 18, they're lost. Because that's what's happening. Many teenagers are going into uni, they haven't got a clue about who they are. And so they're getting lost in uni.
Because that's their first freedom from their parents. That's the first time that they're allowed to be themselves. And they don't know who that is.
And so they go overboard. Because parents haven't let go step by step. It's step by step. We're not telling you to let go completely. But you've got to start letting go of controls bit by bit so that teenagers start to hold on and embrace the responsibility. When we hold on to controls, teenagers are not going to be responsible. When we hold on to controls, teenagers don't know who they are. And so they keep acting like younger people. And then we keep shouting at them because they're acting like younger people. But we're not letting them go.
Can I give you a classic example of that? I think that, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm mixed race, so I have a white mother. Okay. So obviously, things are slightly different in the way Caucasians behave and Africans behave. So in my mind, right, my son goes to university and for a period he decides he's going to stay at home and commute.
Yes.
So I said so he's not paying rent in school.
Yes.
So I said to my husband, I need to collect something towards rent from him. I said, even if I put it in his savings account, he needs to know. My husband is like, how can I be charging him to stay at home? Because and I said, because he needs to understand that it's not free. You know that they're giving him money. He has money that's allocated for rent. He doesn't need to be spending it on trainers.
Yes, true.
He can, you know what I mean? So even if I was saying to my husband, I was negotiating that even if I take half of what his normal rent would be, and the thing is, I'm not going to tell him, but I can put it in his savings account. It's not that I want the money, but he needs to understand. You know what I mean? And I think that's what, and obviously now it's not an issue because my husband gets that. But at the beginning, he really struggled with the idea of how can you be telling our child to you know what I mean? And I get it because that's how he was raised. That's our culture. But in my mind, I'm thinking the sooner you learn what real life is like, the better for you. You know what I mean? So it's that sort of thing that that you have to, and it's the little thing. So in doing this now, when it's time for him to, this is the little releases, teaching him. It's not, he doesn't feel it because really he's got free accommodation, but he's paying a little bit for, you know what I mean? To be fair, he hasn't really been paying it, but I'm still trying, I'm still fighting that battle. But you know what I mean? But at least it's an idea in his head now, as opposed to, I can just stay at home and spend my money how I like.
Exactly. And it helps them in adulthood because, as we said, we're raising young adults. It actually helps them. They start to think more of their future. And this is what actually motivates them. A lot of these things that we're doing is what motivates them to then do well in school.
Yes,
see, a lot of times, because I tell parents, I didn't want to be in a situation where I'm asking my child, have you done your homework? Have you done your... Nah, it's like, no, talk to them, relate with them in such a way that they start to even want to do the homework. You don't have to remind them to do homework. In the teen years, that's one thing that we need to step away from. So by the time you build a relationship with them and affirm them, reminding them of who they are, because the world is telling them of who they're not. So we, with that voice of influence, telling them who they are, they will be more motivated to then work on themselves. And work on
I'm sorry, I know I keep interrupting you, Phinnah. Don't be angry. Can I just say to all you parents out there, especially you from our culture, if you are from our culture, your words. I mean, I know we know as Christians that our words are powerful. Yeah. But, if you think, I wonder if any of you online can think of something that was said to you when you were young that has influenced your life, something negative that was said that has influenced your life. The words stay. So that's part of the self-control I was talking about. We have to have the self-control to hold back. I want to say you are a fool, but you don't do that. because you have to, you know what I mean? Even though inside your head you are thinking you really must be crazy, you don't use your words to say that, because the moment you say, and I'm always pulling your parents that say, what is wrong with you? Because I hate that question. Don't ask. You can say, why did you do that? Why do you think you did? Don't say what is wrong with you, because immediately you are telling them that there is something wrong with them. And our words are so powerful, and we forget when we just drop them back. And what you dropped it, you can't pick it back up. You cannot. And I always say this thing, like, for me, someone said to me when I was 15, someone said to me that, I think I've said this on Hangout Cafe before. They said, that, you dress really well. Like basically you scrub up well, you speak well, you're very intelligent, but you laugh like a prostitute. Do you know that I did not laugh for 2 years? Because I just thought, I don't want anybody to think what I should have done. Had I been strong enough, I should have said, excuse me, how do you know what a prostitute laughs like?
Thank you.
But obviously, I was not taken aback. And because he was an older person of influence, I just thought, oh my gosh, this is how people are seeing me. I laugh like a prostitute. So I didn't laugh. And that thing stayed with me. I mean, even now, I have to come back to my laughing, and I do laugh like a prostitute, and I own it. Yes. Thank you. If that's how a prostitute laughs, that's good. That means she's having a good laugh. You know what I mean? But I would never forget that statement. And the person that said it dropped it by mistake.
Yes.
Everything else they said was positive, and they just dropped that little thing. Yes. And that's the one thing that stayed with me and haunted me. So you have to watch your words. Okay, sorry, Phinnah, go back. I'm sorry.
And you're exact. What I love about this conversation is that we're on the same page. I love it when parents know, because you know what, as parents, my heart just sunk even just hearing what you just said and what they said. But as parents, memories, our children's memory bank is so active. And I talk to young adults today who are estranged from their parents. That's a norm now. We are thinking that these parents are going to be, our children are going to be with us, forever and ever. If we don't work on the relationship now, this generation, if they
don't have time.
They don't have time. No. You know how they used to tell us, blood is thicker than water. Not in this generation. If that blood is not relating with them in the way that makes them feel like a human being, they're not going to honor that blood. That blood is thicker than water.
Okay.
Does not go.
So let me pull you up on something here now. I hear you and I agree with you, but I'm coming from the thing. So how do you, because you're saying we need to make sure that, because this whole thing of blood is thicker than water, and if we're not, so when they're behaving badly and they need to be pulled up, how do we do it without
damaging them?
Without damaging it.
Correction, we have to correct. If we don't correct, then we're not guiding our children. So correction is a must. But what happens is we need to now work on ourselves so that corrections come without criticisms. Because
inner work. I've told you on Hangout Cafe before, you have to do the inner work. There is no shortcut. Inner work, and it's personal. You cannot change anybody. You can only change yourself. Inner work. Please talk about inner work. Please, because maybe they didn't believe me because they are used to me. You are a visitor. Please tell them about inner work.
We have to do the key in parenting. One of my quotes about parenting is more than a role. Parenting is a behavior, and it's a relationship. It's a template of character. So parenting starts with us. And we have to do the inner work. And guess what, guys? The inner work, a lot of times, sometimes we resist to do the inner work because we're blaming ourselves. And I want every parent here to know that whatever happened in your childhood, whatever you heard growing up in your childhood, was not your fault. But it's your responsibility to then do something about it. So embrace the inner work that you need to do. Don't resist it. A lot of parents resist it. They think that when they do the inner work, they're admitting to their failures. It's not a failure. We need to move.
The other thing is that I think inner work is painful.
It's very painful.
So, a lot of people don't even want to deal with that. They don't want to, because and there are things that you will uncover that maybe you didn't even know when you start doing the inner work. So I think I always say to people, do it, but be aware that you probably will need therapy. I think we all need therapy anyway. You know what I mean? You probably will need some help with the inner work. There's surface level inner work, and then there's deep inner work. So I think, you know, there's different levels, but inner work has to be done.
Inner work has to be done. And even if it's a start.
And it's a constant tool. It doesn't stop inner work.
No.
It doesn't stop. It's like a continual thing, yeah.
Continuously. It's even during your quiet time, because the more you develop yourself in this inner work process, you start to get ways to actually, you can even work it on, you know, as you keep doing it, you start to find out ways. During my quiet time, every morning during my quiet time, I am also participating in some inner work with myself as well. Because of course you're going to go back, reflections, you're going to go back, you're going to remember things that happened, you're going to connect with things that happen. I tell parents that yell at their children, there's a lot of inner work that needs to be done on it. It's not just, I can't just tell parents, stop yelling at your kids. It's not a surface level issue. It's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. So the inner work is part of the parenting process. Because if we don't deal with all the stuff that is inside us, what do we have then to give to our children? It's because what we're pouring out is what we have. So we need to do. And
also, I think we do a lot out of fear. Oh, because when, you know, like I always tease my husband, like when he says, oh, he's buying dogs for his daughters, I'm like, it's because you know the type of boy you are. That's why. So because you know the type of boy you are now thinking, I don't want this type of boy around my girls. But you know what I mean? So it's more, instead of educating the girls that, okay, this is what you are now trying to buy a dog. How is that helping? You know what I mean? But that's out of the fear of, you know, like I just need to do something to protect. But actually, I think protection is more for you teach them. It's, you know, so that they learn how to, I mean, yes, the physical protection you can do, but you also need to teach them how to protect themselves, what is good, what is not acceptable, etc.
And you can't teach them without the relationship. And that's the mistake that many of us are making. You can't teach them without the relationship. They can't hear you without the relationship. A lot of times we want, especially with values, we have these values that we want to get our children to you know, to flow with and embrace. But if there's no relationship, our children cannot grab those values from us. They will look at those values like rules. And guess what? Rules are short-lived. We want to have that relationship with them, and that relationship includes not only the rules, you know, rules over, you know, relationship over rules, moving from control to collaboration, but also finding out how to listen to our children. Listening is not hearing. There's more.
No, listening.
Reflect. Listening. Active listening. When we don't learn how to listen to our children, we lose our children. And the unfortunate part is that we don't realize we're losing them because they're still in the home, so they're just going with the flow. As soon as they step out, they step out. And the voices out there become louder and stronger for them because we haven't listened. So one of the skills that I always encourage parents to do is ask your child, how do you know I'm listening to you? How do you know I'm listening to you? Because children have different interpretations of your listening. My daughter will tell me that when I listen to her, I'm reflecting back to what she said. Like I will say, oh, so Tamara, are you saying that this? That's when she knows I'm listening. My son, on the other way, my son will say, when I'm listening to him, I keep nodding. So that's how he knows I'm listening. So guess what? When I'm speaking to my daughter, I keep reflecting. When I'm speaking to my son, I'm nodding. Now, if I'm speaking to my daughter and I'm nodding, I'm sure my daughter is going to think, what's she doing? Because that's not her interpretation of it. But we need to find out from our children, how do you know I'm listening? Because many children conclude that their parents are not listening to them. And when they know that their parents are not listening to them, guess what? They won't tell their parents everything. They won't tell their parents many things that they need to tell their parents, because they'll say, what's the point? She's not going to listen anyway. What's the point? He's not going to hear me anyway. And so we don't get information. We don't get those concerns, those questions, those deep questions that are going on in our children. We don't get it because they've concluded that we don't listen.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's so, I mean, it's funny you said reflective listening, because I think that is one of the skills that every parent has to have, because it tells the child that you have heard what they have said.
Thank you.
You know, and if they don't know that you've heard, they're not, although let me be 100% here. I have two daughters.
Yes.
And you know what girls are like. They come home and they tell me from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every single minute what happened. So that reflective listening becomes a bit challenging. So what I've done is I have an agreement with God. I'm like, Lord, let me hear what I need to hear. so that I can reflect on that one, you know, as in, so when I now hear, I'll say, oh, so is he the one that blah, blah, blah. So they know that I heard that I've missed the first 5 minutes, but God told me this one. Because sometimes it's, but I think reflecting this is so important that when they were younger, it was very easy. But as they're older, I don't want, especially with girls, I don't want to lose that.
Yes.
And obviously, when they come in and giving me this information, I want to hear, but I really cannot sit for 40 minutes to hear your minute by minute breakdown. So I've literally had to turn to God that, okay, Lord, you know, I need to listen, but I need to tell me which bits I need to respond to, what I need to, you know what I mean? Because, so look, don't be afraid to ask God to help you. In fact, I don't think you can parent without God personally. That's my personal opinion.
I'll tell you a secret. Sometimes when my children are talking to me, I'm like, oh, yeah, and there's God, give me the wisdom. I'm speaking in my head.
Yeah,
you have to hear this. But we can't do this parenting stuff well without God.
No, we can't. And I think it's also very key to say, I think, that it is okay. You know, I remember when my first child was 4. In fact, that's how I got into the whole parenting thing. He started school and they had this parenting classes, and they did it for new parents, you know, if you wanted to. So I joined the parenting class and I was like, oh my gosh, from day one, I was sending my notes to all my parent friends. And from there, I got into parenting myself and doing my own parenting thing. But I remember with my African friends, why do I need to go to a parenting class? They saw going to a parenting class as admission that they were a bad parent. Whereas I saw going to a parenting class as an opportunity to learn. And I think that is one of the stigmas that, you know, I mean, I think now it's better. I mean, this was many years ago. Now people are a bit more receptive. But generally, people don't want to go to parenting class because they think they're admitting that they're a bad parent if they attend a parenting class. I don't understand. If you go to learn about accountancy and you're admitting that you're a bad accountant, I don't understand. They're going there to learn about accountancy. Why can't we relate this exactly? Like, we're going there to learn about parenting. It doesn't mean, I think maybe also because in the UK, let me be fair, in those days, you know, if you had a child that had an ASBO or something, they would send you to parenting classes. So maybe there was very correlation, but I don't think that was amongst our people. I think our people just didn't want to, you know. But I could understand why someone that was based in the UK that knew about that would think, oh, only people with bad children go to parenting classes. But please, if you find a parenting class to go, look, in fact, let's say, Phinnah, you do coaching, don't you?
Oh, yes.
It is a skill you need to have, and there's no shame in asking for help. There's no shame in going to learn about how to get better skills. I see a question has come up. Guys, if you have any questions, please send them to me. Okay, question. Phinnah, how do you communicate with children who don't communicate at all?
Okay.
That's for you. I'm not even answering this one.
Oh, wow. No, I mean, it's again, connection. Why are they not communicating? You see, a lot of times, even as parents, we've criticized our children so much that they've shut their mouths up. And unfortunately, we don't remember, but a lot of times it's criticisms that has actually led to a lot of our children not talking. Or let me go another point. It could be that they're being bullied and spoken down to in school, and we don't know that either. So sometimes parents will ask their children, is somebody bullying you in school? Our children most of the time will say no. The way that you ask your child that kind of question will be to say, who is someone in class that sometimes you don't really like them being in class? Start in that kind of way. And then they'll say, oh, they call someone's name. You say, but why? Why don't you like the person? Then they can say, oh, he's always doing this, he's always doing that. But if you start with the question of bullying, many children shut down. So to answer the question of communicating is going to be you going back to how do you communicate to your child? How do you communicate to your child? Do you see that most of your words are rule-based? Because a lot of times with the communication with parents and children, some parents and children, is all about rules, the homework, the school. You know, I asked a question some years ago on Facebook, and I said, what is the first question you ask your child when they come back from school? And many people said, I asked them, how was school? So I went back to say, okay, have you asked them, how are they doing? Because we talk about how was school.
Not how they, Pastor, yes. Yeah. I can't hear you.
We asked them, how was school? How was school? Instead of asking them, how are they doing? How are they? You know, so it's focus on the child more than the school and the academics and what they need to do. So check your communication and start to actually ask your child, hang out with your child a little bit, even if it's 5-10 minutes a day. Because we talk about quality over quantity. It doesn't mean that you have to be with them 24/7. But spend some special time with your child. Take your child out, even if it's for a walk. Let your child know that there was something about, there's something about them that is so special to you. Because as I said, many children make so many conclusions. So we have to every day counteract those conclusions with our actions. So ask the child more questions on that, definitely.
And I think to add to that, I think it's also, I don't think there's anything wrong in making excuses, if you know what I mean. So, for example, if this child is not communicating, I feel like anytime I have an issue with anybody, I'm like, but why do I? There must be some reason that that person is behaving that way. So either I try and do my, investigation, or I make excuses for them, rather than just be like, they're not this or they're not that. Because I don't feel that people are just not this and not that. You know what I mean?
Exactly. There's always a reason.
There's a reason, and sometimes we don't want to admit that maybe we're part of that problem, which is what you were saying.
Yes.
Okay, what can you do to mend a relationship with a distant child?
What can you do to mend it? You have to ask the teenager. I say in part of my book, there's something called the repair code or the reset code. And a distant teenager or a distant child, there's a reason why that child is distant. There's a reason. There's, again, loads of things have happened in the past that many times we don't know. And I think it's by asking your child, I don't know if it's a teenager or young adult, but one of the first things I would say is to approach your child in a way that, you know what, I'm learning and I'm hearing a lot on some parenting things that I'm reflecting on how I've parented you. I'm just doing a lot of reflections, and there's some things I wish I could have done better, and there's some things that I wish, and there's some things I know that I did well, but I'd like to have this conversation with you. I'd love us to. I feel that there's a distance between us, and I'm missing you.
So what you're saying right there, as what I'm hearing you say, is take your ego out of this and go there and be real. Because I think part of the problem, again, that we have as parents, and maybe as African parents or parents of African descent, is that there is a whole heap of ego. How can they talk to me like that? Who does, you know what I mean? Like, I'm their mother. Yeah. You know what I mean? Sometimes we need to, yes, they shouldn't talk to you like that. I'm not saying they should be disrespectful, but sometimes you have to rise above their disrespect to be able to get that relationship back, rather than constantly being in loggerheads because they didn't say sorry. How about you say sorry too? Because as parents, we don't like to apologize. Yes. How about you apologize for your part in the thing, and then see if that doesn't bring something, you know what I mean? Because I think, and that's why I always say that thing is never really about us. It's always about, you know what I mean? And if we can be selfless or think less of ourselves in every situation, it will really help the other person and the relationship. But I don't know.
And we need to make those adjustments, because we have to take that ego on the side and apologize so that we can get steps ahead into the relationship. Because you know what, I always think of later on, when God calls all of us and asks us, what did we do with what he gave us? Exactly. Are we going to start telling God, because they did this, and that's why I did it, because they did this?
She didn't win by Ashrabi, so
I'm going to ask, what did we do? So when we apologize, that's part of what we're doing. When we take those steps to relate with our children, when we take those steps to stop yelling at our children, when we take those steps to stop criticizing and comparing them, when we take those steps to see our children as the young adults and the adults that God has created them to be, when we start to take those steps, those are the things those are our answers. Because if we don't take these steps, what is the answer we're going to give on that day?
And you see that, and this is back to that thing of, it's not, you can't change anybody, you can only change yourself. And in changing yourself, that will make others change. And I think we have to, if we can just get that into our heads. So instead of accusing, he did, she did. How about, okay, he did, she did, absolutely. But what can I do to make this thing better? Because you can't do anything about what he or she did. You can shout, you can tell them you have to apologize, but really, it's falling on dead ears. Because what are you doing? The only thing you can really do that is going to make a difference is what you do yourself. That's the only, and for me, my check is always that, have I done the best that I could do?
That's it.
In my conscience. When I've done it, then God can sort out the rest for me. But for me to now be saying, well, he didn't, she didn't, then how do I expect God to come and say, well, you two, you haven't done it, okay? You do first. And so, you know what I mean? And I think sometimes because of our position as parents, we think that is our right to not do until they do. And like you said, it's about relationship over rules, and sometimes you pick your battles. You're not going to, if this is going to cost my relationship, then it's really not that big a deal. Let's get past this, and then we build it. You know what I mean? And I think
totally.
Okay, all right. Totally. Any more questions? I think I've taken over this thing. I'm very sorry.
No, it's a conversation we're having. It's not like
it's more of a conversation. It's more of what I wanted to talk to you about, a couple of things. First of all, your podcast.
Yes.
So how can we? I know it says blog.feedspot.com. That's where we go to.
No, you can any podcast platform. Apple,
and it's called Parenting Teens Solutions Podcast. So guys, I really feel like you should go and follow, because you can see the nuggets she has been dropping here. Do you talk to people, or are you talking yourself? Is it
I talk to myself. That's a lot. Most of it is I'm talking to myself. So I have a topic I just want to share. So I made it quite different. I didn't want to just it's just about interviews with people. I
actually prefer that's my kind of thing.
Yes.
So look, all the nuggets she has dropped here today, they're all on her podcast, and plenty more. And then you can see did you come on as yourself, or as
I came in as myself, Phinnah Chichi.
As yourself. Okay, so can you type you have your own your parenting board, don't you?
Yes, I have.
I think I saw. You said you just type that in. So please, guys, follow her. You can follow her personally, and you can DM her. You can also follow her on her thing. And your book, you didn't tell us the name of your book, and it's not here.
Yes, let me bring that. My book is The Parenting Teens Navigation System.
Navigation system, like a GPS. Fantastic. Yes. Okay, and we can get that on Amazon. Amazon. Okay, fantastic.
That's the best-selling book on Amazon. To God be the glory.
Praise God. So, look, you know what? I could actually go on for ages, because parenting is also something I'm very passionate about. Yes. So I could go on for ages. So maybe we will tell Funke we need to come in another session. But thank you so much. Lots. Is there anything that you wanted to say that you didn't get the opportunity to say? Have we? Actually, you know what? Before you go, can you give us, if you had 5 tips to give us, what would your 5 tips as a parent of teens? What would be 5 things? So basically, let me tell you the scenario, because I have to set the scenario for you. I have 3 teens, and they're driving me mad. And quite frankly, I'm about to get social services in because it's not working, and my sanity is almost gone. So can you please tell me the 5 things you would tell me to do to turn the situation around, or to start to turn the situation around?
Number 1, what is a strength for your teenager? What does your teenager do very, very well with? Start to communicate with your teenager from that strength part of it. You do this very well.
Exactly
you do this very well, or you're very good in doing this. This is what. So the more you remind your teenager of the good that they are, the good thing they do, the more they will do it. Yeah.
Sorry, that's one of the things that I always say. What you notice gets repeated. So stop noticing negative behavior. Notice positive behavior. Sorry, go on. So that's number 1.
Number 2, ask your teenagers for their opinions. Ask them for their opinions. Yes, ask them for their opinions. What do you think about this? It doesn't mean that you're going to agree to their opinions, but at least you're giving them a voice. They need that voice, because when they go outside in the world, you want them to have a voice to say no. You want them to have a voice to share their what they have in them. The voice in them gives them the confidence. So we need to hear their opinions. Let them have a voice in the house.
I've been known to ask my child, so if you were me,
yes,
how would you punish yourself?
Yes, exactly. Or what do you think?
What do you think?
It gives them that voice. Okay. Number three with teenagers is, if they have friends that you don't feel that the friends are a good influence to them, don't attack their friends. Because teenagers and friendships is a big thing. It's a massive thing. Don't attack the behavior of their friends. Talk to them about what is it about their friends that they love? What are the values in those friendships that they love? When they start to think about the values that they love / the values that they don't like, they can then make that informed decision. But it's not on us to tell them who not to hang out with. Because when we tell them not to hang out with those people, those are going to go and hang out with.
Yes, absolutely.
Those are the people that they're going to hang out with. Number 4, please, we need to stop yelling at our children. the yelling at our children thing, we cannot blame culture. We cannot blame anything, because the values, the wrong values and the negative values that we're seeing on the social media and the internet, they're not coming to our children yelling. They're very friendly. They're very friendly.
Yeah.
Oh, this is no big deal. It's about you. Oh, it's no big deal. Let's just do it. That's what the voice. Those are the voices our children are hearing, and a voice that is calm, a voice that is friendly. They're not going to be.
Yeah.
They're not going to be thinking, is this person a bad person, or is this person saying the wrong thing? They're going to trust that person. So when we yell, we lose our voice of influence.
Absolutely.
So we've got to take yelling out of the picture. And then the number 5 bit will be our words. And I want to repeat that thing about the words, because every insultive word that we tell our teenager, no matter how angry we are, it lands on them. It lands somewhere. It lands. We need to be very, very mindful of what we're saying. And that's why I encourage parents, if you're upset, if you're angry, that's okay. I'm not telling you don't get angry. I'm just saying that, please, when you're angry,
remove yourself from the situation. That's not the time to be having that conversation. You need to calm down first. Yes, and I think that says a lot about the willpower of the parents, because it's all about self-discipline and all of that. Fantastic. Now there's a person here that says, I have a 4 and a 6-year-old. Can I apply these principles? And I think you can. Absolutely.
Totally.
Just make them age appropriate.
Totally. Because like now with a 4 and 6-year-old, you're not going to be asking them all the time what their opinion is, but you can say, what do you think about this? Because you're just wanting to know what they think about it. Again, we're helping them to strengthen their verbalizing things. Because many children, they feel sad or they feel upset. They don't know how to verbalize it because they've not been given the opportunity to verbalize it. And a lot of things we're dealing with now, a lot of emotional shutdowns we're dealing with in today's world. They've put, depression and all that as amongst the highest rates of mental health issues for our young people. And it takes us being with them and allowing them to speak. When your child tells you, I'm feeling sad, don't tell the child, don't feel sad. Why should you feel sad?
I don't tell them I rebuke that in the name of Jesus.
Don't rebuke it.
No.
Let them verbalize it.
Empathize.
Yes, you have to empathize. You have to validate them. Let them share that they're feeling sad. It's okay. Let's talk through it rather than shut them down. Because now in the older ages, they're feeling depressed. They don't know how to express themselves. And it's getting crazier. So it's about these things and continuous learning. Parenting is about continuously learning. My son is uni now. I'm a different parent to my son now. He's 20. I have to parent him.
But you know what my argument is? My argument is that I have 4 children, and I think this is true of you. None of my 4 children have the same parents, even though they were born by the same parents, because they were born at different stages in our lives, and in our emotional development, and in our physical, financial, everything situation. So each child, although they were born to the same parents, they've had different parents.
And different personalities.
Completely different. Because, like I said, when you know better, you do better. So what I did with one, I might not be doing with another. Also, I was probably thinking rich with one, broke with another. There are different things that what is going on. Maybe I was in university with one, not with. So it's what is going on in my life completely. So even though it's the same parents, completely different parents. So they've all been raised by different parents.
Yes.
How about that?
And that's okay. And that's very, very okay. And that's very okay. I think that's just the main thing is about, think about yourself. Think about the fruits that you are exemplifying. Think about the character you are exemplifying in parenting. And as I said, parenting is not about perfection. It's about progress, moving on, and just keep on taking your children along with you and noticing your children, observing your children, just notice, being the students of your child, really. That's really, really what it's about. And of course, with God's grace, you've got to pray for your children. You've got to ask God, how can I lead these gifts that you've given me? You've given me a special gift here. How can I lead them to be who you created them to be? And that is the ultimate work and sacrifice that we have to make as parents.
Fantastic, Phinnah. This has been fantastic.
Awesome.
Phinnah Chichi, let me call you your proper,
yes.
your proper name. Phinnah Chichi. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much. Guys, we're going to have to go because it's already, it's only 10 past. I didn't do too badly. I was thinking we were going to overrun. But thank you so much. Please show your love to Phinnah. Say thank you very much to her for being with us. It has been an absolute. I'm going to have to go and rewatch this to get all your nuggets and put them down. But absolutely, so don't forget to buy her book.
Thank you.
Please,
thank you.
it was.
Okay, thank you.
Navigate. Please,
Yes,
the
parenting
teens navigation system. That's on Amazon, and follow her on both her personal one and her business her business one, please. And if you need a parenting coach, please, don't look anywhere else. You've heard what she has to offer, and but thank you so much, Phinnah.
Thank you, and thank you, Tinuke. I've enjoyed it. You've been an awesome host.
Thank you.
Conversation. It just flowed, and yeah, I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys, have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you, guys.
And we'll see you next week.
God bless you.